Assalamu alaikum. So the reason why I wanted to actually do this little video is really to help us all understand pretty much the most common mistakes that people do when it comes to reading the Quran. So when it comes to reading the Quran, there are a number of different things that we need to say. All right, so here we go. The first thing is that وَالَّذِي نَزَّلَ. So I'm just going to first comment on certain letter articulations. All right, so the certain letter articulation is that when you look at all the letters, you've got certain letters that have a smiley face in it. So in other words, we are making more like a smile. Other letters, you're going to make it like an oval shape. Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to comment on all the letters that we're going to be making a smile with it because they're too many. The easiest way to do it here are the letters by looking at the letters that have an oval shape. Out of all the letters, there are certain letters that when you say, you're going to make a big shape with your mouth. And those letters are ha, saw, all right? Ha, saw, da, ha, ta, qa, va, and ra. And instead of remembering them scrambled like that, maybe the easiest way is to remember them by saying khussa, ضغط, قِض, and the ra that has a fatha. Well, if that's also too hard to remember, there's also a different way to remember it. Remember the letters that are shaped like an egg, okay? The ta, the kha, the sa, the ta, and the va. All right, maybe I should have taken that one out. Sa, the ta, the, and then the ha, ra, qa, and of course that little baby ra. All right. So again, the eggs that are shaped like an egg, and the letters that you get all the way from your throat. Kha, ra, qa, ra. So why is this even important? Well, there are a number of reasons why these are important because those are the only letters when you say them, you're going to make sure that you're going to say it with a big oval shaped mouth. Ha, sa, da, ta. All right. Now, the other letters that are actually not included in this list, and those are actually the rest of the letters. The rest of the letters, you're going to make sure that you're going to say it more with, I don't want to say a real smile, but it's going to be somewhat of a smile. So if you were to actually see my face, you're going to realize the big difference. So it's an with a smile. If you say it just with yourself, you're going to realize it. Be, te, the, je, ha, ho. You're going to make a big, huge oval shaped mouth with that ha. And ha. And then, of course, we're talking about the rest of the letters. Ha, de, smiley, the, ro, ze, se, she, so, so. Big oval shaped mouth. So, bo, to. All of them are big oval shaped mouth. Bo, to, the, a, ro, a, ro, fe, ko. Fe is the smiley one. Ko is big. Ke, le, me, ne, we, he, ye. Now, all their other letters are giving somewhat of a smiley letter. Now, when you're looking at the other letters, so if they're not included in here, they're going to be part of the smiley letters. Now, the other thing is how do we explain the eh? When is it an eh and when is it an ah? Very simple, a very simple rule. If the letter before it happens to be one of the fat letters called the tafkhim letters, just like the sa, the da, the ta, the va, the gha, the qa, the qa and sad, okay, the kha and the ra, well, that would actually mean that the a is going to sound like an o. So is it Khalid or Khalid? Well, it's going to be Khalid. Why? Because here's the a, and the rule is you're going to look at the letter before it. If the letter before it happens to be one of the fat letters, the a is going to sound like an o. So I'm going to say قال Khalid, Ghalib. Got it? Now, Having that being said, then that would actually mean if the letter before the eh happens to be one of the smiley letters, this is going to equal a thin smiley eh. So let's write it down. Ta'am. Let's look at the eh. What's before the eh? Well, it's a letter that is not one of these letters, not one of the fat letters. Therefore, it's not a ta'am. It's actually a ta'am. It's a nar. Ta'am. All right. كلها, not ha. ميتا, not ميتا. فأنشرنا, not فأنشرنا. And of course, it's never an O, it's always an A. All right. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, those are really fast rules right there regarding that, the letters that are the thin and the fat letters. Well, the other thing I would like to say is that when we're saying certain letters, it's really important to recognize والذي نز na. Careful from saying no. There are certain letters that are commonly read as, for example, we're going to start with the first letter. There's the letter E. It's never an O. There's the letter B, ta, th. Now, one thing is that with the letter ta, you want to make sure you don't say ta, or te. Usually very commonly read as a te from the North African Muslims, Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. The, many will read it as a se, specifically the areas in Egypt and, of course, Indo-Pakistani areas. Alif, ba, ta, tha, ja, not a ga, and not a je. The saying it je is actually wrong. It's a je, je. You want to make sure that your upper and lower part of your jaw are both squeezing as the letter je is being articulated. Je, not a je. Je, alif bet jim. Ha, ha, not ha. Ho, de. Not many people make those mistakes, so we're still good. The, not a z. So Egyptians and Indo-Pakistanis, usually Indo-Pakistani continent, let's call it that way, usually make this as a z. So careful with that one. The, ra. Now, one thing about the ra, you want to make sure that you don't say r. You want to make sure that you avoid any kind of repetition. R. Or when we're looking at the ra, there are two common rules here. It's either going to be r or it's going to be r. R, 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 r. Now, usually in the color-coded Quran, the ra that sounds like a thick ra is going to be colored in the dark blue. R. It's going to be colored in the dark blue. The thin ra, on the other hand, is going to be colored in black. It's going to be colored in black, and that makes it easier. The ra, the se, sh, saw. You want to make sure that the letter saw, you're making it a big with a full mouth. Saw, da, ta, the. You want to make sure it's a ta and not a ta. Ta is totally different in where you're putting a full mouth for the ta, very equivalent to the ta, but the difference between a ta and a ta is that the ta more has a smile. The ta doesn't have a smile, but in fact it fills your mouth. Ta, the, and not za. Very common with the Indo-Pakistanis reading it as a za. It's actually la, in where your upper lips are pressuring or giving somewhat of a lock on the middle of the belly for the tongue. All right, la, sa, ba, ta, va, ah, ah. So you're more pressing on the throat. Ah, ra, fa, ra, ka, la, ma, na, wa, ha, ya, wa, ha, ya. Now that comes up to the completing all the letters in Arabic. Now, the other part, what we're going to comment on is basically كذلك, like, oh, some of the letters that we need to press on. So let's go back to the Quran to actually see some of those letters that we need to understand the color coded. So let's do it. وَالَّذِي نَزَّلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Some of the color coded that we need to understand is number one, you've got the gray. When it comes to the gray, you want to basically skip that and consider it as a silent letter. The ones that are red, the shades of red. So let's look at the bottom of the key right there. The darker the color of red, the color of shade of red, the more you're going to extend that lengthening, making it the dark red as 6, the orange, or let's go for the red. This is 4 and 5. So what are those letters going to be? They're usually going to be the letters that are either an a or an oo or an e. So that's why let's look at it. There's an a, an a, an a, an a, and an oo right there. Usually the he right there, that's a different comment. We'll be commenting on that later, but you will find those colors of shades of red more into the a, the oo, and the e, and therefore just look at those. And of course, if it's the you're usually going to see a hamza after it, if it's a or an u or an e. But then sometimes there's no hamza, just like this one. This is when it's stopping. Now, those are for the lengthening. You could see the shades of red for the lengthening. The other part about the colors is the green ones. The green ones, usually if it's a noon that's green, or if it's a tanween that's green, tanween and on n. All right, if it's a tanween that's green, you're going to make this combination of where you're going to connect but make a nasal sound as an addition with the following letter that's being recited. So here, بقدر ف, not بقدر ف. Absolutely not. Don't make the بقدر ف. That's absolutely wrong. What you're gonna do is بقدر ف. What am I doing? The N sound. I'm making it when I'm pronouncing the following letter. بقدر ف. Let's see this one. فأنشأ فأنشأ. I'm not saying فأنشأ, absolutely wrong. فأنشأ. So technically, I'm actually pronouncing the following letter by making a nose sound at that connection. So here we go. Now the other parts, the pressing part. The pressing part is basically when you have a meme that has a shadda or a noon that has a shadda. What are you gonna do? بلدة. You're gonna press on it for 2 seconds. وَإِنَّ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا وَإِنَّ. Now, you might ask, so this is for the pressing. The other part that you want to look at is basically the tanween or the noon that is gray. The noon or tanween that is gray, similar to this one, what you're going to do, you're going to take out the N sound and you're going to connect. بلدة ميتة. You're going to take out the N sound. You're going to connect with the following letter and you're going to press. And that's why they indicated that shadda right there. بلدة ميتة. What about this green tanween? Very similar to this one. What am I going to do? If I decided to continue and connect. ميتة ك. ميتة كذلك. ميتة ك. ميتة ك. Not ميتة ك. Absolutely not. Now, the other part is that, remember right there, these little tiny, right there, these little tiny oohs right there, and this is an E. This little guy is an E versus this little guy is actually an ooh. So what am I going to do? I'm going to say lahu ooh? No, absolutely not. You're making this lahu, 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 ibadihi. You're basically going to extend the he sound, and this is actually an E, an indication to make a he and the who right there. Now, this is just to help us just kind of look around and see. So here, Rahmanu abadnahum. This is actually an a, exactly like the u or the a right there, except this one is actually with that wave on top to indicate that you want to make it longer. Now, it's really important to remember that when you're doing those meds, you could see right there. Let's see right here, just this line, because I guess it has the most med. And let's see. وكذلك ما أرسلنا أرسلنا من قبلك في قر that dark blue raw. Remember, في قرية. What am I doing? I'm taking out the N sound because it's gray, and I'm going to connect and press on the following letter. Again, taking out the N sound, connecting and pressing on the following letter. في قرية من نذير إلا. So look at this. Look at how they made the tanween right there, absolutely parallel in where they're not separated. Look at that tanween right there. There's the a right that there's tanween right there. The lines are not very parallel. Now that's because they wanted to indicate to tell you that you're taking out the N sound here, but you're making a clear N sound here. نذير إلا قال. Why am I saying قا? Because I'm making that thick sound. Remember خ ص ضغط قذ را. The egg-shaped letter ص ض ط ظ خ غ ق. Here we go. This is it. قال مترى, not مترى. مترفوها إن. Notice that noon that has a shadda. Every time you see a noon or a meme that have a shadda, you're going to press on it. وجدنا. Now, you're probably asking by now the dal that has the dal or the letters that are light blue. All the letters that are light blue are going to be called qalqala, which basically means you're bouncing off that letter. قب 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 وجد وجد مق. The letters that are going to appear in light blue are basically the letters qa, ta, ba, ja, da, qutub, jad, qa, ta, ba, and jim and dal. ق ط ب ج and د. قطب جد. ق ط ب جيم and د. All right, so وجدنا آباءنا على أمة. What am I going to do? Remember, the gray tanween means you're going to take out the N sound and you're going to connect. على أمة وإنا على آثار. Not ri. Why? Because remember, the ra that is black is different than the ra that happens to be dark blue. The dark blue, the black one, athari, ri. Atharihim. Remember that meme right there? It's actually shad. They're gonna press on it. Atharihim muqtadun. قال أولو جئتكم. not G. Careful with that. قال أولو جئتكم بأهدى. This green meme is very uncommon, but except we've got 2 times right there, and that's only whenever you see a meme that is green, that would actually indicate that there's the letter ba after it. What you're going to do is that you're going to make a combination of these 2 letters. جئتكم ب. جئتكم ب. أرسلتم به. All right. جئتكم بأهدى مما وجدتم. Look at that dal. That's gray. You're probably wondering that dal that's gray. What am I going to do with it? You're going to take out that gray because the gray letters means that they are actually silent. You're going to take out the letter that's gray, which is the dal right there, and you're going to connect it. وجدتم. Take out the dal that's gray, means it's silent. عليه آباءكم قالوا إنا بما Look at that ra, dark blue. Make sure you make sure that you make that fat sound just like this letter. Inna bima ursiltum bihi kafirun. Notice that ra is also dark blue the same way. And so those little points when we're talking about the color-coded Tajweed Quran, those little points, those will be helpful in order to make sure you are avoiding the very commonly mistakes that happen when we're reading the Quran. So